All right, so let's get going on the demo. So I'm going to demo a couple of things. The first is zero-touch enrollment that we talked about. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to turn up a new data center, but for logistics sake, it's going to be a small virtual data center. And I'm going to automate it end-to-end, right? So using zero-touch enrollment, these things are in their factory state. They're going to pull their configuration, and they're going to pull the enrollment bundle as well, and they're going to enroll with Lighthouse. And as they enroll, will be granted access. Secondly, I'm demoing the RESTful API. So the way that we've chosen to do that is by implementing a basic ChatOps workflow. So Slack users, any Slack users here, right? Okay, so you can literally just invite yourself to a little Slack channel that I've set up. So if you follow that link or go to that QR code, you should be able to have a Slack. It's like a little Slack-in thing that'll send you an invite email. Yeah, but in the meantime, is very quickly, Slack, what is it like? It's like IRC for development teams, right? But you can extend it by having chatbots that integrate into your workflows, whether that's like Git or Jenkins or whatever systems you're using for development. So you don't have to actually break your flow. You'll be inside your chat window, collaborating with your team, pasting bits of code at each other, and also being able to merge changes and things like that. So we've done something similar, but for out of band. So here's our chatbot that we've written. I wrote it last week. So it's literally like a few hundred lines of Python code. You can go have a look at GitHub. As I said, yeah, it's implementing a ChatOps workflow for out-of-band management, network management. So that is basically as these nodes come up and as they come up onto the Lighthouse VPN, we've decided that they're coming over the WAN, so it's an untrusted connection. So we're going to do explicit approvals. So I'll be able to approve them through the chat window. And once that happens, I could be able to access devices, get links to consoles and things through the chat window as well. All right, so you might get a bit seasick here because I'm having to switch between windows to show you what's going on. Hopefully this doesn't get too ugly. I said I'm literally just help if my network stayed up. Okay. So I'm just running a script, and this is basically starting DHCP server. You can't quite see the bottom bit's cut off there. Let me make that a little bit. There we go. Yep. So I'm just running a script to start a DHCP server, which effectively starts a zero-touch provisioning process. So I've got I think I had 5 Opengear nodes sitting there, setting up DHCP discovers. And now I've just started my DHCP server. You can see they're starting to get their IP addresses, and you can see one of them's already pulled down a configuration using TFTP. I decided to use for this demo. Let's have a look. And this is the configuration. It's like the world's simplest templated configuration. I've just got a couple of environment variables that get replaced. So it's very, very basic. It's not Ansible or YAML or anything like that. So it's very, very simple templated configuration. And this is an example of the DHCP configuration. So this is what zero-touch provisioning looks like. It's literally this little snippet here. If I see this vendor class, it's an Opengear. As I said, I'm just using virtual devices for the demo. It'll give it this URL to pull out the configuration, and we can associate a box-specific configuration just by substituting the MAC address. And it says enroll at my Lighthouse at this address and use this enrollment bundle and this password. So let's go back and see, yeah, they're all starting to come up. This takes a couple of minutes. So in the meantime, we can jump into Slack. Oh, yeah, a couple of people have joined us here. So there's our Lighthouse bot, help. And There you go. So these are the kinds of things that you can do. You can get like a link through to the Lighthouse web UI. You can get consoles and things like that. So as these devices come up, you can also get notifications. That'll take a minute or two. And you guys might take a minute or two to join. So let's jump back to our slide deck. As I said, this is the seasick part. So that's basically what's happening now. The nodes are booting up in my shiny new data center. They're getting configured by the ZTP server, which I just started. You saw me start. And they're hitting the registration API. This is the process we were talking about before. And Lighthouse is responding with a link to the OpenVPN config. The Lighthouse VPN is coming up. That should be happening right about now if the demo gods are kind. And then we'll be able to start interacting with our Slack channel. So,
is the ZTP server a required piece, or is that just for the demo?
It's so you can apply the configuration however you like. So you can literally paste it in to a console. The ZTP server just allows you to automate it. So you just plug it into the network. It's just it's an ISC DHCP server with a TFTP server as well, or you can have it pull the config over HTTP.
So the box won't be able to just get a DHCP address, start a Lighthouse VPN, and grab what you have from there? It
needs a couple of vendor options. It just literally needs to be told, this is the URL of your config, this is the address of Lighthouse kind of thing. So yeah, it needs a slightly specialized DHCP config. I had it up before, I can bring it up again. There's just like a couple of, there's those couple of extra lines there. So yeah, and any DHCP server will support this kind of stuff. It's totally standard. So I had my wrist buzzing. Okay, yeah, they're starting to enroll now. They're starting to come up now. So you can see there's a couple coming up. So might take a little while to come up completely, but yeah.
Ryan has owned your environment in the meantime.
Yeah. So which one's that? That's my, oh yeah. Okay, so you're actually accessing the console of my IM7200 through my little guy like this. So it's kind of inception, console inception. So yeah, we'll wait till a few more of them come in. Otherwise, I'll get impatient. I'll just enroll the ones that have already connected. Yeah, you can ask how he's. You can ask. Okay, so we've got a few notifications. I've got 6 pending. So let's go Lighthouse bot pending. Did I mention that I wrote this in like a day and a half, and there's definitely no bugs? So let's just approve the ones we've got connected. All right, there's 2 connected so far. So. And I'm not a patient man, so let's just do this. So as I said, yeah, I've literally plugged these into the network. Well, I just started the DHCP server, so kind of the other way around. But yeah, now they've started up the VPN connection.
It's just some vendor-specific DHCP options.
Yep, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. So let me bring it up again. Control A.
Was I not paying attention enough?
Yeah. No,
okay. Yeah.
So it's like this, which kind of defines this gives it nice names to be able to put in the config. But yeah, config URL, enroll URL, enrollment bundle, and these bundles again they can be associated with the metadata, like which data center did I use or did I enroll bring up using this bundle. And also this enrollment password, and that's just like literally like a little token that lets them get to the point where they can be approved, right? So, and you can revoke that. It's basically like a one-time password. Once you've done bringing up all your nodes using that bundle, you can just delete that, and that becomes that password goes away. So, cool. Yeah. So it's approved a couple of devices. So let's see what we can do. Actually, let's jump back to the slides and see where we are in terms of the progress. Yep, so node alert, we got a couple of notifications there at least, and I've approved. And once they're approved, So the Lighthouse VPN connection is up. So now there's like a southbound API call. The Lighthouse basically says to the node, tell me what you got connected. So it's the configuration sync. So from this point onwards, I know everything that's connected over here, right? And I can now access it through Slack. So let's try and get a web console to, say, a device. I'll go at Lighthouse bot, web ISR, and I've got an ISR connected. Yeah. Cool. And from my ChatOps window, I've like literally, I'm in my Cisco console. So I mean, I could be going over cellular, and this is connected via serial console. But you know, you can literally, you don't have to know that, right? So if you've just been woken up with notifications at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, or you're your first day on the job, the idea is you don't have to know any of that stuff. You just need to know, I want to get to ISR, please, Lighthouse, and then you're there. So that's console gateway.
So if we were doing the zero-touch provisioning without our fancy chatbot in the middle, we'd do the approval and stuff through the Lighthouse GUI?
Yeah, that's right. So there's let's have a quick look, manage configure nodes. There's a GUI to do that as well. Yep. So you've got two options. You can either choose to have a particular enrollment bundle auto-approve. So if you're deploying this on a trusted network, you can have them automatically enroll themselves, automatically sync after they've enrolled and be added to the to Lighthouse VPN. Or you can go through and check the.
How, I mean, the chatbot's nice. How complex was it? How many lines of code are we looking at there?
So you can take a look at on GitHub. It's like, I think it's grown to 500 now. When I first started, it was about 300, but I've just been tinkering. It's added a couple more features yesterday.
You guys just Opengear?
Yeah. So it's, Opengear.
There it is.
Yeah. So I see we've managed to manage
so it's not
the demo. So.
It's not overly complicated to work with that.
Not at all. So this is literally kind of a first pass proof of concept of this. And as I said, it took me like a day and a half. It took me like a day and then half a day of refactoring to do this. The Slack API, to its credit, it's really easy to work with. They've got like a client library, so just import Slack client. That's where we're going with Lighthouse as well. So we want to be able to import Lighthouse client as well. But in terms of, if you have a look at the code, I'm using the request library, Python request library, and just doing gets and posts and stuff like that. So it's not, it's clearly it's clearly proof of concept code at the moment, but it's usable, right? Unless you try and nuke other users, where Lighthouse just gives you the big thumbs down, right?
Could we take it a step further? Can you actually maybe type commands into the CLI of the router? So if like a site fails, that primary thing fails, I've already got my 1, 2, and 3 in the playbook. Go ahead and run those things.
Yep. Yeah. So you can't do that at the moment, but that's really interesting, and that's where we kind of that's something we want to do with the API, because that's something it doesn't do at the moment. It doesn't literally give you a socket that you can, or a call where you can actually paste, or you can actually hit commands.
Right.
But that would be very interesting. At the moment, what it is kind of like a level of indirection. It gives you a link so you can get to it, kind of thing. And that link could be an SSH link as well. So you can that is literally a socket that you can connect to, right? You don't have to use our UI to connect to this stuff. You can use SSH.
I think that would be a pretty nice feature to have. If I could, get a notification Slack that something went offline or something is misbehaving, and I can LHbot reboot.
Yep.
And it goes under the console and reboots it.
Yeah, and this is the stuff we want to hear, right? So this is, because we have the PDU support as well. You can literally, have a PDU connected to RS-232, and you so got out-of-band power control. And you can associate a console device with a PDU outlet. So I know my ISR is plugged into console 3 and the PDU outlet 4, and then you can do in fact, I'll probably just show it to you, can't I? Let's jump back to, where's my ISR gone? In fact, it's faster if I just do it through Slack. So I'm connected into my ISR console, and I'm just trying to remember the escape character here. I think it's tilde P. No, it's bang. No, it's tilde P. There we go.
Oh.
So I've got so I can literally do that. So as I said, this, we've got that one level of indirection right now. You're doing it through our UI, but yeah, that is certainly something that we could, without too much effort, integrate directly into the RESTful API, because we have all the block and tackling to do that right now. So jump. That'll take a bit. Well, that's an ancient.
I see you also have native Cisco integration. What does that mean?
Yeah, so basically that means that you can connect Lighthouse. You can connect a Cisco terminal server to Lighthouse as a node. It doesn't have the API. It doesn't have Lighthouse VPN. But what you do get is you'll have the console gateway you can connect through, and you can use the smart groups as well. So you can tag different Cisco terminal servers as being in different locations or accessible by different people. So you can do all the permissions control as well. Yeah, so it's something we're announcing. We haven't released it yet, so it's being announced at this show, but we haven't released it yet. So it's coming at the end of August. I can't remember that. So.
Do you have any plans to open that up to outside? If anyone's using some off-the-wall third party and they want to plug in their own modules to extend your capabilities to other devices.
Yeah. So the way we've designed it, that would be totally possible, but it's not something that we've discussed at length. But I suspect it will be something we can discuss at length now. So yeah. No.
I mean, I've used as simple as a Raspberry Pi with an Octopus cable.
Yeah.
To do some pretty off-the-wall stuff, and if I could plug it into this until I can get one of those.
Yeah. Gotcha.
That's.
So yeah, I guess the thing to bear in mind is generic as anything you can kind of SSH into. Right. You can add it as a node, but I mean in terms of having a slightly higher level of support and stuff we know we've tested with and we can warrant the support for. That's what we're targeting. We know there's a huge install base of terminal servers and old Cyclades,
right, yeah.
that kind of stuff out there that people are really itching to get off. That's what we're kind of targeted as the low-hanging fruit. So I just before we kind of start to wrap up a bit, I did add, I don't know if anyone found the Easter egg in the code. You can totally, if anyone's been on GitHub, there's
and here we all go.
I'm surprised you guys haven't found it.
I probably should have said this on slide 4, but yeah, there's no prizes though, so that's fine. Let's jump back and see what we got in terms of just to give you a chance to have a look. And nuking other users, unfortunately, wasn't. I totally should have it that at least.
There we go.
Let's bring back up the Slack channel.
Okay, I just found it.
No underscore, but yeah, that's it. So saying I've recently become a dad, so I need a supply of dad jokes on tap. So this demo actually, let me see a dad joke. This demo has a couple of integrations, right? So it's between our bot user in Slack, our bot user in the RESTful API, and also our bot user in iCanHasDadJoke.com. So yeah, whenever you need a dad joke, you got one. Yeah, and I've just been sitting there all night. So this is why it's grown to 500 lines of code, right? So yeah.
So I do have. It's not really a question, but as someone who manages a couple hundred offices, that we're required POTS out of band management for some of our monitoring that we've outsourced. Is this this looks like an easy win because POTS are they're trying to stop selling those, but yeah. This is an easy win for me if I can get my WAN provider to be able to sign in onto this interface. Are these conversations that you've had with the people that like telecoms that are still requiring out of band?
Yeah, so I mean, like we've been driving. I mean, well, it's not even us been driving. The market's been driving. I guess the migration away from POTS lines because they're slow to provision, they're pain to use, and they cost a lot of money. So in terms of the even the sales guys, if you talk to them, it's just ROI, and they'll throw all these numbers at you and stuff like that. But just using out of band over cellular, it's just like, as I said, like when you're using something like the failover capabilities in the nodes, it'll literally, okay, your main router goes down, the node will bring up the cellular connection, re-establish Lighthouse VPN up to Lighthouse, and then you won't even know in terms of the experience going over 4G, you won't know that you're accessing it over cellular, right? So it's just like so much more usable. And what we're trying to do, I guess, is make it totally transparent. As I said, you don't want to be worrying about running your out-of-band network. You want to be worrying about running your production infrastructure, right? So Lighthouse is, I guess, the tool that just abstracts all that complexity and all that diversity of connection and just lets you just get on with the job. And I think, and cellular is like a key piece of that in terms of it's a redundant connection in a box, and you don't have to, go and hit ATDT or whatever to get to your site, right?
So the other question I wanted to ask, I was looking at these antennas and I saw some of your gear out on the floor. Data center racks and generally the nasty remote office racks aren't conducive to antennas that are directly attached to the gear because they end up inside of a metal cage or whatever. What are you doing for antennas, or what are?
Yeah. So these are literally just little SMAs. So you can unscrew the antenna and get a little extender. I think we sell one as an accessory, but you can we sell it's like a 10-foot one or something like that. So you can at least get it outside the cage, and often that's enough. That's all you need. It's got a little magnetized base, so you just pop it up the top. If you need to run it further, then you can use some LMR load loss or something like that just to run it a bit further. We find
it's nothing proprietary though, right?
No, not at all. No, this is all off-the-shelf stuff. So what we've found is in the data centers, yes, cellular is used a lot in a lot of places, but it's really kind of in the remote sites where you don't have redundant pipes, where cellular really comes into its own. And stuff like in colos and things like that, where it might be a bit problematic to get in sometimes, even if they do have network connectivity of their WAN. Wanting to get to your rack, cellular kind of is useful there as well. So then you start having to look at often, just getting that antenna outside the cage.
Okay, cool.
How often are you guys having issues where the cellular provider will change their codes or something? Are we having to go back to you, or is that something that's automatically downloaded from our provider? So let's use Verizon as an example. They change something on their end. How much of a lag is there? Is there any?
So you mean in terms of network configuration or APN configuration?
If I buy one of these and Verizon changes how they connect.
Yeah.
Because they give you the dongle, right? And that's how we traditionally would do it.
So they have, so that's a good example actually, because they have announced recently that it's all going to be V6. So you can't get V4, and a lot of users were used to, they just go into their URL bar and typing in the IP address, and that's that's fully legitimate. That's how they wanted to do it. They've grandfathered everyone on the old static V4 plans, but in terms of us, we've got a new firmware revision that will support the dual stack V4 V6 coming up. But it's not these kind of breaking changes aren't common, right? So often, so the APNs they assign, the actual configuration to get onto their network, that just stays static for years, right? What we do have is we have, as part of I guess our smart out-of-band thing, is we have a framework called auto response inside the boxes that can actually do end-to-end connectivity testing. So even if your cellular is dormant all the time and you're just using it for emergencies, to save money, so you're not using any kind of data while it's not being used for out-of-band management, you can actually choose to bring it up every so often and just ping out it, or bring up a VPN tunnel or something like that automatically. And if that doesn't work, then send a trap or an email or SMS even to say, okay, you might want to look at this site here, because the last thing you want is when you really want that out-of-band connectivity and you don't have it right. So yeah, we've kind of got all that covered. So.
Yeah, and we can do the firmware upgrades to not only to our box but also to the cellular radio, as well as do over there the same way your cellular phone does. So we can do both of those.
That's not super common, but that's when it happens. That's an automated process. So.
Thank you.
What's the failover time from going from like WAN connectivity to cellular on the OpenVPN? If like your WAN goes down, how quick will it fail over to cellular?
Within a ballpark of a few minutes, kind of thing. So it's not like seconds, but it's not like long enough that you might notice a small outage, kind of thing. But
Okay.
it's pretty quick. And then failback is completely transparent because we have them both up at the same time.
Can you tell it not to fail back? Because if you're troubleshooting a WAN bouncing up and down and you want it to be on cellular, is there a way to say stay on cellular?
Yeah, so by default, the logic for failback, it wants to see stability for I think it's 5 minutes or something like that to make sure that it's all stable. And you can actually go and have your own failover logic in there as well. Yeah.
Is that timer tunable?
Yeah. It is, yeah. So that's it for the demo, I think, and dad jokes.
So you say we can have our own failover logic. Can you talk just a little more about that?
Yeah, so the way we've implemented the system is the failover testing script is literally a bash script, and it looks for a copy of itself in the configuration partition. So it's etc config is where we mount the user configuration. So if you've got a failover script inside etc config that you've put there, it just uses that instead of the built-in system one. Yeah.
Cool.
Now, is that something that you can include in your auto provisioning, or is that something you would have to manage outside of that?
Yeah, so I won't bring it up again because I've done enough switching. But the auto provisioning script, you've got a few ways of doing that. One is via a bash script, just a shell script. So you could do a cat EOF and just have your script there and just write it out to the file inside that if you wanted to. The other way that you could do that is we have a config file format that's basically just a tarball with some versioning information. That's the .opg. So you can provision it using an OPG package, which is a complete image of the entire configuration partition. So you can have any of your scripts, your certificates, your files, even binaries and stuff if you want.
And that's like a definable DHCP component, yeah?
That's right, yeah. So what you do is you just point it to a URL and the Opengear the node will look at it'll figure out the protocol from the URL schema, and it'll also figure out the file format just from the extension. So if it's a .opg, it imports it one way. If it's a shell script, it just runs it. So
okay.
So went through that. We've kind of done QA. So unless there are any more kind of questions, I might just start to wrap up. I think.
I just have one quick one. I was trying to remember. Do you guys have dual carriers? You can have diverse carriers.
Yeah, we do, not simultaneously, but we have models like I think this one where you can actually put 2 SIM cards in there. And having said that, it's more of an inventory solution than like a failover solution, because to switch between the carriers, you've actually got to reflash the firmware of the module. So there is a bit of a window. So we've chosen not to implement that automation, not automate that. There's no reason why our users couldn't do that if they wanted to, But yeah, really, I guess the idea is you ship these things out to a remote site with an AT&T and Verizon SIM in there, and then based on what has the best signal, you activate one SIM or the other kind of thing. So.
Okay, and then if you want to use the other one, you would have to manually activate the other one, reflash the device.
At the present, it is a manual process. As the modules we're using evolve, we're totally open to making that part of an automated process as well. So.
I don't think anyone has the dual carrier single module.
Just buy 2 Opengears, right?
Do you have any idea what the data usage is? Not for in a WAN failover, but just pure management traffic going back and forth, what the data usage is for that?
So it's on the knowledge base, and I calculated this a few months ago off the top of my head, talking kind of tens of megabytes per month for an always-on VPN connection going over cellular. In terms of getting in there and just doing a console session, we're talking about kilobytes. But having a VPN tunnel, you've got your keep alives and your encapsulation and stuff like that. Right. There is a bit of overhead. So which is why we kind of say, well, this works really well with failover. So you're pushing the VPN out your primary least cost path, and you're only using the cellular as it fails, kind of thing, as it absolutely needs it. So yeah, but I think it's safe for me to guess tens of megabytes. But I'll jump on the knowledge base afterwards and take a look. Because I literally set up some firewall rules and was looking at traffic counters and things like that just to slice that. So I might wrap up, I think. So the little demo, I guess, is hopefully has shown how we're. I guess this is a pretty revolutionary change in terms of our central management, and how we're doing that to address a lot of these emerging use cases. Stuff that we might not have even thought about. And we are excited about the API, and we think it unlocks a lot of stuff for us. Documentation. So you can download a demo of the Lighthouse software today if you want to have a play. If you don't have an actual Opengear device, just send us a message, and I'll get you a virtual image to play with. The documentation's up there as well, and also there's another link to the Lighthouse bot on GitHub if you want to hack on our code.